In today's world, especially if you're a high achiever, maybe a coach or an athlete, it feels like we're just swimming in information. Every single day, there's another article, another book, some new research promising the secret to performing better. We get really good at collecting knowledge, don't we? But here's the thing, the real challenge. How do we actually go from just knowing all this stuff to, well, doing it? That's exactly what we're getting into today. We're focusing on some powerful insights from Coach Ed Padalecki, who's a top performance coach. He talks about this really interesting idea, shifting from being a librarian of the mind, as he calls it, to becoming a warrior. So our mission here is to pull out the core ideas from Coach Padalecki's work. We'll look at how ancient wisdom and modern sports psychology actually come together to help us really live our highest ideals for long-term excellence. Let's unpack it. Coach Padalecki makes this distinction, it's really powerful, between being a librarian of the mind and a warrior. Now, the librarian, in his view, is someone who collects ideas, maybe bookmarks quotes, nods along during a webinar, but doesn't really live them. It's collecting versus embodying. He really stresses that mastery isn't just about knowing, and I like this phrase, forged in doing. So if we know so much, what's holding us back from the doing part?
That's a fundamental question, isn't it? And that distinction, absolutely crucial, especially for people trying to lead or compete at a high level or just show up well every day. In sports psychology, we talk a lot about this space between knowledge and action. It sounds philosophical, maybe, but it's where the real change happens. It's where confidence gets built. It's where your identity as a performer takes shape and where peak performance stops being accidental and starts becoming consistent. If you're not bridging that gap, you're basically leaving potential on the table.
That forged in doing idea makes so much sense when you look at the greats. Like Georges St-Pierre, the UFC champion, Coach Padalecki points to him as a prime example. A masterclass in discipline, clarity, mental control. He didn't just study martial arts, he was martial arts. He trained for it, daily, rigorously. What specifically was he doing, though?
GSP is a perfect illustration. It wasn't just the physical skill, though obviously that was there. His doing was this intense, almost obsessive focus on preparation. Visualizing fights, breaking down tape, yes, but also creating really strict routines for everything. Diet, sleep, psychological prep. He wasn't just learning moves, he was drilling them relentlessly, internalizing them until they were pure instinct. That day in, day out deliberate practice. That's forging mastery. Closing the gap between knowing and embodying under fire.
It's amazing how that forged in doing isn't just modern sports, it goes way back. And what's really cool is how this concept, this internal warrior, isn't just a modern thing or some dusty old philosophy. It seems universal, across cultures, across time. If you look at the ancient world, like Donald Robertson talks about in How to Think, like a Roman emperor, guys like Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca, they weren't just thinkers in robes. They were, as Robertson calls them, warriors of virtue. What does it actually mean, though, in practice? They weren't just thinking about the good life.
Exactly. They were training for it. For them, philosophy wasn't some academic subject they just studied. It was something they trained for. Think about an elite athlete's daily routine, discipline, deliberate. These philosophers approach their practice the same way, with real intensity. They knew that inner strength, that wisdom, it doesn't just show up, you cultivate it through consistent work. Daily reflection, journaling, contemplating challenges, applying principles in messy real life. They were building mental toughness. Just like an athlete builds muscle and skill, it was about making their knowledge real.
And it circles right back to that quote from Epictetus that Coach P brings up. Don't explain your philosophy, embody it. That feels like the absolute heart of the warrior mindset. Whether it's GSP, a Stoic emperor, or a CEO facing a crisis, live the principles, don't just talk about them. But okay, for someone facing huge external pressure, isn't there a danger of getting too stuck inside your own head? How do these warriors balance that inner work with the real world crashing in?
That's a really good point. And it gets to the sophistication of this mindset. The internal focus isn't about hiding from the world. It's about building the inner strength to handle the world better. The Stoics, for instance, understood that controlling your inner landscape, your thoughts, your reactions, was really the only way to effectively deal with the external chaos you can't control. For an athlete, maybe it's locking into their pre-shot routine, controlling their breathing, knowing the outcome itself isn't fully theirs. For a leader, it's managing their own emotions in a tense meeting so they can think straight and guide their team instead of getting sucked into the drama. It's not escaping reality, it's building the fortitude for reality.
That makes sense. It's about building capacity. And this warrior mindset, Coach P emphasizes, it's not tied to one culture or era. This idea of mental combat shows up everywhere. And let's be clear, this isn't about fighting other people. It's the internal fight, the battle against our own weaker impulses, that inner critic, the urge to drift, put things off, or just give in to fear. It's fighting our own worst habits, really, striving for self-mastery.
You see this thread woven through so many different wisdom traditions. It's almost like a universal human insight. You got ancient Greeks like Socrates calling life the great combat. Then you have Eastern figures like the Buddha saying, "He who conquers himself is the mightiest warrior." Rumi put it poetically. The lion who conquers others is minor compared to the lion who conquers himself. Even in the Bhagavad Gita, right? Arjuna, this legendary warrior, is on a battlefield, but he's frozen by inner conflict, by fear. He needs divine guidance to step up and do his duty. It all points inwards.
It really is remarkably consistent, that message. And if you look at scripture, the theme of this internal battle is right there too. Like in Timothy 1:7, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind." That's about mastering your inner state, isn't it? And Romans 12:2, "Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." That's an active call to reshape how you think. And 1 Timothy 6:19 urges us, fight the good fight of the faith. It underlines that life involves this internal struggle, and the real wins happen inside.
And here's the practical payoff, looking at it from sports psychology. When you actually act in line with your highest values, your core principles, especially when it's tough, when the pressure is on for you're essentially activating what we call psychological capital. And this isn't just a nice idea, by the way. PsyCap, as it's known, is measurable. There are validated scales for things like hope and self-efficacy. So we can actually work on building these internal resources and track the impact, much like you track physical training gains. It's tangible.
Psychological capital. Okay, so Coach P mentions it breaks down into resilience, bouncing back, right? Optimism, that positive outlook. Self-efficacy, believing you can actually do the task. And hope, believing good outcomes are possible and you can find a way. These aren't just personality traits. They're like the foundation for performing well consistently. But how does acting on principle specifically build these things up?
Great question. Let's take self-efficacy, believing you can do it. Every time an athlete grits through a tough workout they didn't feel like doing, or a leader gives that presentation they were nervous about, and they actually follow through, even if it's not perfect, they're gathering evidence. They're telling themselves, okay, I did that. I can handle this. That doing strengthens belief way more than just reading about confidence. Resilience, you don't build that by avoiding difficulty. You build it by pushing through it, by acting despite setbacks, getting back up, learning. That's active. Optimism grows when you intentionally look for solutions, not just problems, an active mental choice. And hope isn't passive wishing. It's having a goal, believing you can figure out the steps, and then acting on those steps. It's all active internal work.
Right, so psychological capital is like the mental engine, the infrastructure that keeps elite performance going, not just for one big moment, but consistently, under pressure, over the long haul. It's what lets you maintain that excellence, adapt to challenges, and avoid burning out. It's the inner strength keeping you in the game. So, okay, let's make this really practical. How do we apply this day to day? Coach P talks about today's 1% better daily practice and team. He's just asking yourself, what's one core principle but haven't fully embodied? This isn't about massive overnight changes. It's those small daily actions. Maybe it's something you read, heard about, maybe even something you tell others to do. Is it your recovery? Really prioritizing rest even when things are crazy busy, or that morning routine, setting your intention before the day grabs you, or maybe handling stress, staying centered when things get chaotic. Whatever that principle is for you, the idea is take it off the mental shelf. Stop just knowing it. Bring it into the arena. Be the warrior with it, not just the librarian. Let's take a common scenario for listeners. Say you're leading a team, maybe in sales, and suddenly there's this unexpected crisis at quarter end. Huge pressure. Intellectually stay calm under pressure is key. You've read the articles. But how do you actually do that right then when alarms are going off and deadlines are screaming?
That's exactly where the warrior mindset kicks in, isn't it? For that sales leader, it's probably not about some big, complex strategy in that moment. It's about a micro practice. Maybe it's a specific breathing technique they can use for just 30 seconds before the next tough call. Or perhaps a pre-chosen mantra, something simple they repeat internally like, I am focused and capable.
It could even be consciously reframing the situation, not as a disaster, but as a test of their leadership. The doing is that small, intentional, repeatable action that taps into their psychological capital. It's choosing to act like the calm leader they want to be, rather than just wishing they felt calm.
That's super practical, and Coach P takes it maybe a level deeper too. He also suggests asking, what's one internal battle you can face with more courage and presence today? And following that, what's one principle you're ready to live, not just know? This really pushes you to pinpoint where your internal resistance lies, or which ideal you admire but haven't fully committed to in action. It's about consciously deciding to engage that mental combat, to align what you do with what you value most. It really emphasizes conscious effort, doesn't it? It's so easy to just run on autopilot, especially under stress or when we're tired. The warrior's way requires that constant vigilance, that deliberate choice. Maybe that internal battle today is simply procrastination on a task you're dreading. The principle to live isn't some vague, I should be more disciplined. It's, I will take the very first, smallest step on this task right now. Or maybe it's about showing integrity in a difficult negotiation. The principle isn't just be ethical. It's, I will listen carefully, state my position clearly, and maintain my boundaries respectfully, even if it feels awkward. It's these small daily acts of embodying your principles, repeated consistently, that build real mastery over time.
So when you boil it all down, the core message from Coach Ed Padalecki is incredibly direct and potent. It applies everywhere: sports, business, just life. You're not here to archive ideas. You're here to embody them. It's all about closing that gap, turning knowledge into action, transforming what you know into how you actually live and perform.
And that idea, living your philosophy, it's not a destination you arrive at. It's ongoing. It's a daily practice, isn't it? A continuous effort, that good fight you choose to engage in each day, every morning, every challenge you face, every decision point. It's another chance to step up as that warrior, to confront those internal struggles bravely, to choose your principles, and just aim to get that 1% better. So maybe, as you go through your week, you can ask yourself, what's one thing you believe deeply but didn't quite live up to today? What could tomorrow look like if you truly committed to being the warrior of that truth, not just its librarian?
Thanks for taking this deep dive with us. We hope this gives you some food for thought as you continue on your journey.